man. Wow, what a great backdrop here. So we'll hop in here. Ken, it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out for the show. I appreciate it.
No problem.
So I want to begin our conversation with, before we get into your work as an entrepreneur, an author, and a sobriety champ, I want to know, 4 years ago, we were trying to figure out this whole pandemic. How are we going to get through it, the ramifications? How did you ultimately survive that time period? And how has it changed the way that you do things now?
Wow. I did not think we were going to be talking about that. But so for my main gig, not much changed. I'm the president of a company called Hosterian. I'm a co-founder. We started the company in 2001. We do hosting. So we were immediately a mandatory service or whatever they were calling that, right? So we did implement a very small skeleton crew of staff that stayed at the data center, right? So somebody's got to be here to check servers and stuff like that. But we created a mechanism to where we would rotate that through. At the time, though, I also owned a title boxing club, and it totally decimated that business. Like, it destroyed it completely. We stayed open. We kept our staff through COVID. We did live videos. We did training over, but there was just, rent was going out, but there was no revenue coming in. And we really, in St. Louis County, we were down for gyms. We're down for 3 months solid, right? So no business at all. And then we came back with our square footage. We were allowed to have 12 people at a time in the gym, which, we're used to 40 in a class. So that was pretty rough. And it ended up closing our doors. Title boxing clubs ended up selling to another company from the franchisor. And we took that opportunity to just separate ourselves from title and create a new kind of thing, which is now Box STL. So whereas title is like heavy bag classes and fitness and cardio, we focus really big on youth and youth competition. And that's our primary focus there. And it's just such a joy to work with the kids. I didn't have that opportunity before, and I get it now. And it's, the book that I'm writing right now that's being released is Reclaim Sobriety, 12 Rounds of Sobriety. It's all about boxing. And the fundamentals are my 12 core values that I teach my boxing students when they're young, 12, 13 years old. We started implementing these core values to them, on taking them from somebody that's never competed in a combat sport to competing in a combat sport on a stage with a giant audience, right? So there's some mindset stuff that you have to have there. And so I would say the pandemic was rough for us.
Yeah.
But at the end of it, it shook off a lot of our fleas.
Yeah.
And it made us look at, what we really want to do. And it gave us the opportunity to, coming out of COVID, to really just do those things that we love to do, because we realized that, there's so much out of our control that we might as well just do the shit that we want to do.
What a great metaphor, shaking off the fleas. I love that. So
Yeah.
let me ask you this. If I was to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at career day right now, and one of the curious kids looked up and wanted to know what you did for a living and said, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
I would tell them at a third grade level that I'm a creator, that I like to create things. My favorite thing to create is businesses and communities. Those are my two favorite things to create. I like to come up with services and products, and then bring those to market and see if the market likes them. Most of the time I'm wrong. Sometimes, sometimes I'm right. But I really find a ton of joy in the creation and working with the team to say, how can we do this, and making new things or making different things. And bringing those out and seeing if the world likes them. And sometimes they do. And sometimes it turns out to be a wonderful thing.
But for third graders, that's a good thing to realize. A lot of an entrepreneurial's life is about the failure and what you learn and how you become a stronger organism
Absolutely.
by proxy. So what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream?
Oh, I was a horrible third grader, man. Like, by third grade, I was already in drugs and alcohol.
Okay.
I was the youngest of the people living with us. There was about 7 or 8 people generally living with us, and I was the youngest. Stepbrothers, stepsisters, dad, stepdad, drugs and alcohol everywhere.
Yeah.
All I wanted in third grade was to be a gas station attendant, because that was still a thing, right?
Yeah.
Pump gas at the gas station and live in a trailer just by myself. And that's really, really kind of in my mind, and it pissed my teachers and counselors off to high heaven, because I'm just like, well, I don't really want to play in your world. I don't like anything that's going on here. And I definitely didn't like my home life.
Yeah. So what were the foundational seeds that gave you the success and this drive that you have? What was planted in you that eventually grew into this entrepreneur and somebody that is watching this childhood float way far away in the rearview mirror?
Yeah. So I just got super lucky. I am wildly dyslexic, really, really bad, to the point where they didn't know what to do with me in school. So I was in SSD, which stands for special school district. So I was not in classes with the normal track of kids. My mom, God love her, um, had a ton of her own issues, going through her own PTSD and her own addiction issues, but she advocated for me and fought for me tooth and nail all the time. What that ended up getting me is, at a very early age, access to computers, right?
Yeah.
So I could, um, she would advocate for me, and I could take my tests verbally instead of written. I could type my homework out instead of, and this is, early 80s.
Yeah.
Computers were
Wow.
rough to come by. But and we didn't have money, right? So
Right.
she was a bartender. My dad was a baker. Um, but she fought, and we got this, this brother word processor, I think, in like first grade. So I learned to type, man. I learned to type really well, really fast, because for some reason, I could type things okay. Yeah, but handwriting, I couldn't do. I couldn't turn that stuff in. So I really found a love for technology and finding ways to accomplish the end goal that weren't what the mainstream was doing. So I think that was a big part of it. And then realizing that outside of my mother, there was nobody else there to help me, that I had to figure it out myself, right? I had an advocate that would fight for me to make sure that I got the resources that, not even the resources that I needed, because I don't think anybody knew what I needed,
Yeah.
right? But just the resource to say, hey, let's keep trying different things. Let's just not just throw this kid away.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that helped a ton. And then, just my love for technology continued to grow and grow and grow. So, I started my very first company. Well, I had a vending machine company when I was like 14, but when I turned 16, I started my first video production company.
Wow.
I was DJing weddings, right? Traveling the Midwest, DJing weddings at the age of 16, loved it. And then I saved up the money, and I got an Amiga 100, maybe a 500,
Yeah.
something like that. Started editing video in the house, and turned that into a nice little business. And I sold that business at the age of 19.
Wow. So you had to grow up fast.
Um, I think so. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know much different, right?
Yeah.
I would get a note, because I was in special school district. Normal rules didn't apply to me,
Yeah.
right? I could kind of come and go as I pleased, as long as I had a note from my mom. They didn't kind of say much. So I can remember at 11 years old, I got my first job bussing tables at the
Wow.
restaurant next door to the school, and I had a note from my mom that said I could leave school early in sixth
Yeah.
grade to go next door and start bussing tables, because that was more productive use of my time than sitting in
Yeah.
a classroom, learning a different way to do math.
Yeah. So who's been a hero for you? Who's been an inspiration for you?
Oh, wow. As a young man, um, the the biggest inspirations for me as a very young kid were the small business owners in the town that I grew up in, and the town's Arnold. Wildly different town than it is today from then, right? Um, so Ray Baker was my first employer, right? He was this weird old dude that owned Baker's restaurant, and he let me come in and make salads, and he taught me how to bust tables, and he taught me how to be nice to customers. And the nicer I was to the customer, actually, and my customer then was the waitresses, right? Because I was busting their tables. Be nice to the waitresses so that they give me better tips at the end of the night. From there, I went on to work for a pizza joint, and Ben was, he was the manager there, and he, just led me down a path that I had never seen before. It was the first time that I'd had conversations with another human that were wildly conflicting, right? Because he was born again Christian, and at the time I was a damn it, I'm an atheist. There is no God. That was my thought process then as a young child. And we would sit and talk for hours, and he would teach me business. And I ended up being his general manager for a couple of years as I got older, running a couple of those stores. And it was just a blast. So, the pool hall owner, all those kinds of local mom and pop owned shops that I could go to, talk to these small business owners, right? There was a slot car track in my town, and I'd spent probably a year of my life at that slot car track soldering stuff for money, at 12 years old, to because I could solder, right? And older guys didn't have good eyes, so they would pay me to solder their cars together. Um, those men and those small businesses in Main Street, I believe, were a better influence to me than any school teacher or anybody else.
Wow. So if you could meet anybody alive on the planet right now that you find fascinating, who would you love to meet and spend some time with?
Alive or dead?
Yeah, we can open it up to the ghosts.
It would be John Lennon.
Okay.
Hands
Fascinating.
down. Yeah, I would love to just spend time with him and pick his brain and just understand, what his childhood was like, and how he got to where he got.
Yeah, I've never heard that answer, and that is fascinating. I'm always the one thing about Lennon's life that gets me, there's so many things because he was such a innovator. He was the first guy that did feedback and all of these other things. But the way that he fell in love with Yoko, she was an artist. And there was a ladder in the middle of an exhibit, and you walked up and you grabbed this like a magnifying glass, and you went up to the painting and it said yes in the middle of it. And he said he instantly fell in love with her.
And that was her work.
Yeah, it was her. She was a painter at the time. So
Okay.
yeah, she's always been a visual artist. I don't know when she thought she could sing, but that's always kind of painful. Being alive.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the Beatles. John has always intrigued me, the anti-authoritative kind of mindset. There's a better way to do things.
Yep.
Studied law and decided, hey, I'm going to go into the arts instead of this godforsaken industry.
Yeah.
And this constant search for a better existence
Yeah.
is what I feel like he had.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I just he's brought so much inspiration to me in life that I would love to be able to spend time with him.
So speaking of music, obviously being a music lover, what was the first live show you saw that blew you away?
Oh, that blew me away.
Yeah.
Oh, Elton John and Billy Joel playing
Wow.
Piano Man together at the Old Bush Stadium.
Wow.
And they played it together, and they stopped singing completely, and 50,000 fans in perfect harmony sang Piano Man together.
Wow.
Was my first, like, holy shit, this
Wow.
is something really, really powerful,
Yeah.
moment. And then right after that would be um, watching Bob Dylan, like a Rolling Stone, play live with him and Willie, at
Wow.
some little Bodunk place.
Yeah.
Would be my two, like, highlight moments.
Yeah.
Even though I was at the Guns N' Roses where they tore out the chairs at Riverport, which was my
Oh my God.
scariest experience. But
Yeah, that's right. It did get pretty crazy there. I mean, they
yeah.
had some really hardcore early days where things just went south. If Axel wasn't in a good mood, one of my best memories of a show, now that I didn't even mean to think about this, I saw Radiohead in '03, I believe, in St. Louis. And it was all about Tom York's whole vibe. If he was in a good mood, but I remember he was going on and on about Clear Channel at the time, but it was a great
Oh,
show. Yeah. It was
yeah.
that was Hail to the Thief, and they were on it. So,
That
uh,
was around the time the radio industry was consolidating,
yes, yes,
right? And the
uh-huh,
radio was cool, and then it went corporate,
yep, that's
and
it.
now it's all shit.
Yeah, yep, exactly. Pretty much, pretty much. So, what is it that has always consistently been the motivator for you to do the work that you do, and to also evolve as a human being? What has that been for you in your life?
Um, that's a tough question. Consistent motivator is just, I don't think it's consistent. I think it's been changing throughout my entire life.
Yeah,
Right. And it's just for the longest time, for the absolute longest time, I was chasing something that I didn't know what I was chasing. Couldn't quantify it. I just knew that I wanted something. Right. And I'd always say, well, I want to be rich, or I want to be famous, or I want this, or I want that. And I'm like, I was always chasing something. And that kept me very motivated for a very long time. Right. Like, I don't have it yet. I don't have it yet. And it was this anxiety inside of me that I don't have this thing. I don't even know what the hell it is,
Yeah.
but I got to get it. So I'm just going to try as many things I can until I get it. As an older man, I found peace with that. Right. It's not, um, what I was chasing. What I found is that while I was chasing all those things, I really just enjoyed doing work.
Yeah.
I have this, I still have it. I'm getting better with it. This underdog love. Like, I love the underdog so much that I would continue to put myself there. The pride of building up through something that other people failed at is um, something that I hold true to my heart. Like, it's my battle armor, right? That
Yeah.
doesn't matter where I go. I love, I don't do this anymore, but when I was younger, I would love to just getting dropped off in any random city with nothing and trying to figure it out. Right. That was so much fun for me. So, um, yeah, just the constant chase and not even knowing what it was. Now I'm comfortable. I know that I just like doing the work that I like doing. One of my core values is be authentic. And I found that if I'm just doing that every single day, that without being too woo woo, the universe just kind of provides you what you need when you need it.
For sure. I totally get that. So, of everything that you've done, all these adventures and achievements and everything you've evolved into, what are you the proudest of?
Oh, my youth team and the Box STL Gladiators is my um after the obvious, my family, my children, my wife, my household, right? After all of that stuff, which
Yeah.
is, I'm just grateful as hell every single day that they're here. Um, my creations, and I guess helped create my family, would be the Box STL Gladiators and that youth boxing team, and being able to take a kid that is awkward, doesn't have any other place to go, and then in my head, I'm that business owner that this weird kid comes to and hangs out with and gives them tips and tricks and shows them how to do stuff, and gives them, I've got a boy that's on our team that's a hustler, and he likes selling candy at school, right? He's now our window cleaner. I taught him how to go down the whole row of the strip mall and knock on every owner's door and say, hey, love to clean your windows, doing that kind of stuff for these kids that, if I wasn't there doing that, I don't know where they'd be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I hold a tremendous amount of pride in that, um, and showing them a different path, that other paths are possible.
So, if you had a dream tonight, ran into that 14-year-old version of you, that it had this vending business and you're looking at the world, and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've led, the wisdom you've gained along the way, what advice would you impart on that young version of you?
It's all going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's all going to be okay. It will work itself out. The anxiety that I had of overcoming whatever challenges I thought were in front of me, right? They're all real in a sense, but they're also all just made up and they're in your head. So being able to overcome those hurdles mentally is really hard. And a lot of people, I don't think, ever do it. They don't ever get over their own mental blocks. And I'm not saying that I've gotten over all of mine by far. I'm sure that there's something I don't even know about yet. Um, but that anxiety of this constant, like, something's wrong, I got to fix something, would have, I think, really accelerated me as a whole if I'd have just known that, hey, everything's going to be okay. You're going to have enough money to pay the car payment. You're going to have enough money to pay your rent. You're going to have enough money to pay your electric bill, right? You're going to have shoes on your feet. Like, those things are going to happen. So you don't have to worry about them. And, that was stuff that I worried about tremendously when I was younger.
So we had mentioned Bush Stadium, old Bush Stadium, and I got a question. If we get off this call and a time machine pulls up and you can go back in the history of baseball, more specifically Bush Stadium, and see one game, where are you going?
Oh, 82 World Series.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Well,
was
and I don't know the game. I was really young. It was a May game, and it went, I think it was the longest game in history for a very long time. It went like 13 or 16 innings or something like that.
Yeah.
And I remember because I was at that game for my birthday. I was really young, and it went super long. And I don't even know what the chant was, but I know there was a cuss word in it. And I was chanting with them. And I remember my stepdad getting really pissed. And I was like, "Oh, let it go. He doesn't even know what he's saying." And I remember them telling me, "Hey, this is going really late. And you're probably not going to go to school tomorrow because we're going to try to stay here for this whole game." And I remember that at Busch Stadium being a really cool experience
Yeah.
that I got to have.
That's awesome. So at the end of the day, Ken, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, everyone that you know, all of your readers, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Oh, I'm the guy that you can count on to get it done.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like,
love it.
doesn't matter what the project is, right? We've I've been involved in some pretty elaborate builds and projects, from the entertainment industry to the IT industry. And like even now in IT, I'm building, this really crazy, we're gonna immerse servers into liquid, to help cool them, right? We're building this giant, quarter of a megawatt of power facility that we're building right now. And got to go to investors, and they're giving me lots of money to pull this off. And they're like, "You're going to put servers in liquid?" Uh,
Yeah, right.
like,
Yeah,
yeah, that's what we're going to do. It's going to be more efficient. And, I have to garner their trust
yeah,
and faith. And they write these giant checks for me. So, and they write these giant checks for me to go play with tech. Right.
yeah, yeah,
So I absolutely love that. And honestly, I'd rather do that than have a whole lot of money myself. Being able to build this stuff is what I really, really enjoy doing. So, um, if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. You can trust my word. That's, um, sometimes to a detriment, but
yeah. Right. But no, that's beautiful. That's the perfect quote. So if anyone wants to get your book, they want to reach out, learn more about you, any of the good business, where do they go?
KenCox.com,
Okay.
KenCox.com. That should get you wherever we need to go. The Reclaim Sobriety book comes out November 19th.
Okay.
So really excited about that. I've got some really great celebrities that have given it endorsements, as well. So it's been, I've been working on this particular book for about 5 years, and
Wow.
it's coming out November 19th. And it's changed dramatically, but it's a combination of my struggles with addiction coupled with, how I teach the kids in the gym to overcome their mindset and their mind hurdles. And, I highly lean on all the different recovery programs that I've been through, AA, Smart Recovery, Recovery Dharma, all of those things. I pull from all those and provide a tool set for anybody that's dealing with, catered around addiction recovery. But if you're looking to change your mindset on anything, I think it's a good grounds. And if you have a loved one that's dealing with addiction, I think it's probably a good book for you to read to understand what they're going through.
Yeah, for sure. Ken, this has been so good. It's been an honor, man. I'm so glad that I ran into you. Keep spilling the light into the world, man. It's
Thank you
wonderful.
so
Great
much.
story. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Appreciate it.